Welcome back to Bookish Dives. Great to have you with us again. If you've joined our previous literary explorations, you know we love really getting into what makes a book tick. And if you're new, welcome. Today we're diving into a really powerful one. It's Dr. Nicole LePera's book, How to Be the Love You Seek. Break cycles, find peace, and heal your relationships. And this isn't, just another relationship guide. It feels much deeper. It's really an exploration of how our earliest experiences shape our adult connections, and crucially, how we can actually rewrite those patterns. It's, a look at connecting with our authentic self.
It really is. And what's so interesting right off the bat is how she tackles that frustration so many of us feel in relationships. Dr. LePera, she spent a decade as a clinical psychologist, and she saw this pattern again and again, people trying so hard, but still struggling to create the relationships they really wanted, often feeling pretty resentful too. And many had tried things like, the love languages idea.
Yeah, very popular.
Right, but found it didn't lead to lasting change. They were still sort of stuck in those same old dynamics.
That makes so much sense, that feeling of like hitting a wall despite trying everything. And I think what makes her work so approachable is that she starts with herself, with her own big aha moment. She tells this story, doesn't she, about Christmas with her partner, Sarah.
Yes, the Cirque du Soleil tickets.
Exactly. A show she loved, a thoughtful gift. But she describes this gnawing sense of disconnection, feeling totally alone in a packed theater. And that pain kind of sparked this huge realization for her, didn't it? That maybe she was part of creating her own suffering.
Right. And crucially, that she might have the power to break those cycles.
It's such a shift, moving from blaming circumstances or others to looking inward.
Absolutely. And that vulnerability, her sharing that, it just immediately connects you. It highlights that the real issue isn't pointing fingers. It's about understanding our own internal landscape. So the book's mission, really, is to guide you back to your own heart, to reconnect body, mind, soul, and heal that connection to yourself first, which is the foundation for healing connections with others. You can't really connect deeply outwards if you're disconnected inwards, essentially.
Okay, so if the mission is guiding us inward, what does Dr. LePera say is the main thing keeping us stuck in these, unfulfilling relationship cycles? How does she link it back to our past?
Well, she argues pretty strongly that it's often an echo, right? An echo from our childhood, specifically from our parent figures. And that's key. It's not just biological parents, but whoever was our primary caretaker, meeting our physical and, importantly, our emotional needs.
Okay.
And this is where the science comes in, which I find fascinating. She draws on Dr. Daniel Siegel's work in interpersonal neurobiology.
Right, the idea that relationships literally wire our brains.
Exactly. Our brains are incredibly social. Human connection creates neuronal connections. We're born with these underdeveloped nervous systems. And those early interactions with caregivers literally cause neurons to fire and wire together in specific ways. It forms the brain's basic architectures, that serve and return process you hear about. Consistent, responsive caregiving patterns the brain for security. Inconsistent or neglectful care patterns it differently. It's like laying down the initial blueprint.
So what happens then if those early connections that serve and return weren't consistently safe or secure? How does our nervous system adapt to that?
Yeah, that's where things get tricky.
Yep.
Our nervous system can get programmed into what she calls a conditioned stress response. The book lays out 4 common ways we adapt. Fight, she calls that the eruptor mode.
Okay.
Flight, the distractor mode. Freeze, the detacher mode. And fawn, the pleaser mode. The reality is many of us didn't have perfectly secure attachments, so our nervous systems can get stuck in survival mode, always scanning for threats, even when we're objectively safe. And what's really wild is that these responses become physiologically familiar, almost comfortable in a strange way.
Comfortable even if they're causing problems.
Yes, because the body knows them. And this leads us to unconsciously recreate trauma bonds in our adult relationships. The brain seeks the familiar, even if familiar is dysfunctional.
That's a really powerful, maybe slightly unnerving idea, that we're drawn to repeat what we know, even the painful stuff. Can you maybe give an example from the book to make that clearer? Why would our brains do that?
Absolutely. The story of Dominic and Monique illustrates it really well. So Dominic was adopted. He had a hypervigilant mother and a distant father. His coping mechanism became fleeing, turning inward, being secretive, distracting himself.
Okay, avoidance.
Right. Monique, on the other hand, her mother had depression, her father was often absent. So she learned to cope by trying to control her environment, manage everything to prevent upset.
Trying to create stability.
Exactly. So in their marriage, what happened? Dominic's automatic withdrawal, his fleeing,
Hmm.
instinctively triggered Monique's need to control and micromanage. It perfectly recreated those childhood dynamics for both of them.
Wow. So their nervous systems were kind of set up to find and reactivate those specific, familiar yet painful patterns.
Precisely. Locking them into this cycle of conflict and feeling misunderstood.
So it goes way deeper than just habits. It's like our actual neuroception, how our subconscious scans the world for safety or danger cues, gets skewed by past trauma, which means we might see threats where there aren't any. Just because our brain is stuck on that old danger channel, it's constantly feeding us this story based on the past, not the present.
Exactly right. If you were constantly criticized as a kid, even a neutral look from your partner might register subconsciously as criticism, making you instantly defensive. Or, if you grew up with yelling, a door slamming unexpectedly could trigger a full-blown threat response years later. Dr. LePera uses Mona's story really effectively here. Her father's abandonment left her with this deep shame, so when her partner Juan didn't text back right away, she'd panic. Her immediate thought wasn't, he's busy, it was, I'm just not good enough. That old wound flared up. And then there's Trevor. His dad taught emotions were weak, so he suppressed everything except anger. Outwardly, he was the life of the party.
Avoiding vulnerability.
Totally. But with partners. Emotionally distant, quick to anger, that faulty neuroception programmed in childhood just kept them both locked in these self-created conflicts, blocking real intimacy.
Gosh, this sounds like such a deeply ingrained cycle. But you mentioned hope, and Dr. LePera talks a lot about neuroplasticity. What does that actually mean for us? Is real change truly possible if this stuff is wired so deep?
It absolutely is possible. Neuroplasticity is, well, it's the brain's incredible ability to change, to form new neural connections throughout our entire lives. The really profound insight here isn't just that change is possible, but it hinges on how we respond to things. It's not just about having new experiences.
Right.
It's about consciously choosing new thoughts, new feelings, new behaviors in response to those experiences.
Yeah.
We can literally teach our brain new ways to operate.
So we're not just doomed to repeat the past.
Not at all. We can shift how we instinctively think, feel, and act, breaking free from those old conditioned defaults. It takes work, conscious effort, but it's fundamentally empowering.
That really is a game changer. Okay, so how do we actually start this rewiring? How do we reconnect with what she calls our authentic self? The book breaks it down into body, mind, and soul. Let's start with the body. Why is that the first step?
Yeah, reconnecting with the body, developing body consciousness, she argues, is foundational because our emotions, they actually reside in our physical tissues, in our cells. She brings in Dr. Lisa Feldman-Barrett's work here, the theory of constructed emotion. Basically, emotions start as physical sensations.
Sensations first.
Yeah, like a racing heart, tight chest, whatever. And then our subconscious interprets that sensation based on our past experiences.
Oh.
So that racing heart could be fear, could be excitement, depending on your personal history, your learned associations.
You're saying.
And practically speaking, if we're chronically dehydrated, sleep deprived, not eating well, we just don't have the basic physical resources, the energy to do this deeper work. So the book really emphasizes listening to our body's needs, things like body consciousness pauses.
Okay, so emotions aren't just thoughts. They're physical feelings interpreted through our past. That's fascinating. What are some practical ways, then, to practice this body consciousness to build that foundation?
She suggests really simple things, like setting alarms during the day just to pause.
Yeah.
Put a hand in your chest.
Yeah.
Notice your breath, any sensations without judgment,
Just noticing.
just noticing.
Ah.
Intentional breathing is also huge. Deep belly breathing can calm that fight or flight response, where something like the Wim Hof method can actually energize you if you're stuck at a freeze or shutdown state. Other things she mentions are grounding in nature, literally standing barefoot on grass, maybe even hugging a tree.
Huh. Okay.
Sounds a bit out there maybe, but it works. Also, focusing on nutrient-dense whole foods. She highlights things like B vitamins, omega-3s, vitamin D, antioxidants, and minimizing inflammatory stuff like sugar, gluten, processed foods, alcohol. Getting enough sleep is non-negotiable. And moving your body appropriately, gentle movement if you're agitated. More vigorous movement if you feel shut down or frozen.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And she also touches on things like acupuncture, TRE, tension and trauma-releasing exercises, and simple self-soothing tools like weighted blankets or calming music for immediate regulation. It's a whole toolkit.
That's a really comprehensive toolkit for the body. Okay, so once we have that crucial foundation, reconnecting physically, she guides us deeper into the mind. What does she mean by mind consciousness?
Mind consciousness is basically becoming the observer of your own mind, Noticing those automatic thoughts, feelings, reactions that run on autopilot most of the time. This is where we uncover what she calls our ego story. That's the deep-seated belief or subconscious created way back in childhood to make sense of unmet needs.
Like a core belief about ourselves.
Exactly. Often it centers around feeling not lovable enough or not worthy enough. And understanding your ego story isn't about blaming yourself or your past. It's about seeing the hidden script that's been directing your life without your conscious permission. Remember Trevor, the life of the party,
Yeah, emotions are weak.
right? That was his ego story. It protected him in childhood, maybe, but as an adult, it blocked real connection because he was terrified of vulnerability. And the ego is tricky. It filters our experiences to confirm these old beliefs. It creates this self-fulfilling prophecy loop. But once you see the story, you gain the power to start rewriting it.
And within that mind consciousness piece, she talks about our conditioned selves. What are those exactly? How do they show up?
Yes, the conditioned selves. These are basically the coping roles we adopted in childhood to survive, to get our needs met, or just to feel safe. Like the caretaker gaining self-worth by always meeting others' needs, often neglecting their own.
Yeah, that one.
Or the overachiever constantly seeking external validation through performance. The underachiever hiding out to avoid judgment. There's also the rescuer protector, drawn to people they perceive as needing saving. The life of the party we mentioned. The yes person, the people pleaser. And the hero worshiper, always idealizing others.
Wow, lots of roles.
Yeah, and we might shift between them. Identifying which ones you tend to play is key to breaking free from their automatic grip. She offers the empowerment pause exercise here. Before reacting automatically, you pause. You question the ego-driven thought. Is this really true now? And then you make a new, intentional choice, one that aligns with who you want to be, not just who you were conditioned to be.
So we move from that ego-driven autopilot to empowerment consciousness, making conscious choices. And then finally, there's connecting with our soul or heart consciousness. This sounds like, yeah, the most spiritual part of the journey.
It really is presented as the pinnacle, yes.
Yeah.
Dr. LePera explains the heart is much more than just an organ pumping blood. It actually has its own network of neurons, a mini brain, if you will.
A brain in the heart.
Sort of. It can store memories, learn, make decisions, and crucially, it emits a powerful electromagnetic field, much stronger than the brain's field. This field influences our intuition and can subtly affect the people around us. And she talks about heart-brain coherence. This is a measurable state where the heart and brain are working together efficiently, sending rhythmic, orderly signals back and forth. This leads to mental clarity, emotional resilience, and that feeling of deep connection.
Okay, that's incredible. That must be why sometimes you can just feel someone's energy, right? Or sense when a loved one is upset, even if they haven't said anything. It's not just imagination.
Precisely. She calls that energetic sensitivity. Our heart is picking up on and interpreting those electromagnetic signals from others. So the goal is to shift from incoherence, that state of frustration, anxiety, scattered thoughts, where your heart rhythm is jagged and irregular,
Feels chaotic.
to coherence, which is characterized by feelings like appreciation, love, calm, focus. And your heart rhythm becomes smooth and harmonious. Hassan's story in the book is a great example. He was raised by critical parents who shamed his artistic side. He became an underachiever, really detached, kind of depressed. But through practices like Wim Hof breathing and vigorous exercise to stimulate his nervous system out of that freeze state, and then practicing heart-focused breathing, he started reconnecting with his heart's truth. It led him back to art and design, stuff that genuinely lit him up. It transformed his energy, his outlook, his whole life, really. He started feeling excited and present again.
That's powerful. Okay, so we've covered healing the self across body, mind, and soul. How does all this individual work then translate into better relationships with other people? It sounds like the book moves beyond just, communication tips.
It absolutely does. It kind of challenges the idea that just knowing your partner's love language is the magic bullet.
Right.
Because if your own nervous system is dysregulated, if your heart is kind of closed off because of past hurts, you might actually push away or misinterpret love, no matter how it's offered.
Right.
The core idea becomes empowerment consciousness within relationships, which means taking responsibility for meeting your own needs first.
Own needs first. That
Yeah.
sounds counterintuitive for relationships.
It can seem that way, but it's actually the foundation for true interdependence. Not codependence where you lose yourself, but interdependence where you maintain your sense of self, your wholeness, while sharing a deep, authentic connection with someone else.
Okay, that makes sense. Interdependence. So this involves communicating our needs directly and not just hoping people will guess. That's a big shift for many.
How does she suggest we do that effectively?
Yeah, no more mind reading. She gives some really clear, practical guidance, like consider the timing of difficult conversations. Are both people relatively calm and regulated?
Good point.
And clearly communicate your intention. Why are you sharing this need? Not just dumping, but connecting. And crucially, practice validating the other person's feelings, even if you don't agree with their perspective or their actions. Acknowledging the reality builds safety. She used great examples, like instead of saying, you obviously don't care about me when you're away on trips, which is accusatory.
Defensive reaction incoming. Totally. Instead, you might ask, hey, when you're traveling, could you maybe text me before you go to bed so we can just quickly catch up? That would really help me feel more connected.
Shifting from accusation to a clear need and a request. Much better.
Exactly. It's empowered, clear communication.
That reframing is so helpful. And you mentioned co-regulation seems like a really big part of this too, extending that feeling of safety to others.
Huge part. Co-regulation is basically how our calm, regulated nervous system can help soothe and regulate someone else's nervous system, often without even saying a word. Our presence can be calming. Don's story in the book is lovely. He started meditating near his toddler son.
Okay.
And noticed the little boy became calmer, had fewer tantrums. Don's regulated state was influencing his son's. So when we become aware of our own stress responses, and we can start recognizing them in others too, we can make conscious choices. We can self-regulate first, or maybe even gently step away from someone who's really activated until things cool down.
Instead of getting sucked into the drama.
Precisely. It allows for much healthier interactions. It helps break those old dysfunctional dances like the one between Alondra and Luca. Luca had childhood trauma that made him avoid difficult conversations, just shut down or deflect. But Alondra learned to stay regulated herself, to offer that co-regulating presence. And eventually that helped Luca feel safe enough to open up, to actually connect instead of defend. It transformed their relationship.
That's incredible. And then right at the end, the book takes this even further, expanding from individual relationships out to the collective, how our personal healing ripples outward. That's a really big, fascinating idea.
It really is a powerful conclusion. Dr. LePera introduces this idea of collective consciousness, which is essentially the combined energetic state of any group. Could be a family, an office, a city, even the whole planet. And she cites some pretty compelling research, like that Washington, D.C. study back in '93.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
A large group meditated together with the focused intention of reducing crime. And during that period, violent crime rates dropped by something like 23%, quantifiably. Another study during the Israel-Lebanon war showed a massive, like 76% drop in war deaths on days when a large group practiced heart-centered meditation nearby.
Wow, seriously?
Yeah. The idea is that our individual heart coherence, when practiced by enough people, actually creates social coherence. Our heart's electromagnetic field influences others around us, subtly shifting the collective energy.
So my individual state of calm or anxiety, it literally affects the world around me more than I think, like a kind of energetic butterfly effect. That's mind-blowing.
Absolutely. The book talks about this human-earth feedback loop. Our collective nervous system energy might even interact with the Earth's own natural frequencies, the Schumann resonances. Projects like the Global Coherence Initiative are actually studying this.
So when we feel that collective anxiety sometimes for seemingly no reason,
it might actually be us picking up on collective incoherence, yeah. But the empowering message is the flip side. Our individual healing, our commitment to cultivating inner peace and coherence. It doesn't just transform our own lives and relationships. It genuinely contributes to the energetic well-being of the whole collective. Our inner peace literally becomes a building block for global peace. It's quite profound.
What an absolutely incredible journey through how to be the love you seek. Dr. LePera really does give us such a clear, actionable roadmap, understanding the past's impact, but more importantly, consciously choosing a new path. Body, mind, soul. It's really about building that deep inner safety first, isn't it? Recognizing those old patterns and then reconnecting with our heart's, well, limitless capacity for love. A real call to taking responsibility for our own healing.
It truly is. It empowers you completely to realize you hold the key. You can break the cycles. You can foster genuine connection, but it starts inside with yourself. Building that foundation of self-trust, self-compassion, self-love, that's what allows real intimacy to blossom everywhere else.
Well, if this exploration has sparked your curiosity about self-healing, about relationships, about maybe doing your own deep dive, definitely follow Bookish Dives for more explorations into these kinds of transformative reads. Dr. LePera leaves us with such a simple but powerful final thought. Really encapsulates the whole message, doesn't it?
It does. She says, "You already are the love you seek."